tutorial, we are going to create the sprinkles in Blender. This is a fast-paced tutorial, so if you need to pause or rewind, feel free to do that. You're also going to see the keyboard shortcuts at the bottom of my screen, bottom left of my screen over here. So as I navigate and move Blender and go through the tutorial, you're going to see all those options down there. So if you're wondering what keys I pressed, that will be visible in the bottom left of the screen. So the first step is to create a cylinder. Let's press Shift A, go to Mesh, Cylinder. Now my donut is quite small, so I need to scale the cylinder down. Before I do that, in that little menu that pops up, it says 32 vertices. We don't need that many, so I'm just going to click on 32. This is in the bottom left, and press 16. Okay, now you can alter the dimensions of the cylinder using the radius and the depth here. So instead of going through the menu here, I'm just going to eyeball it and scale it manually. So I'm just going to zoom out here and press S, scale it all the way down. Now, very important when you're scaling is making sure that your mouse is away from the center of the object. So notice this is the center of my object right here where the orange dot is. I want my mouse to be away from that area, otherwise watch what happens. So if it's very close to that orange dot and I press S and I try scaling it, it's very, very difficult to control. Okay, so make sure your mouse is away from that orange dot when you are scaling the object. Just going to scale it down further. And if you lose sight of your sprinkle or of your cylinder, you can press the numpad period key. So the period key on your numpad, that's on the right side of your keyboard. If you don't have a numpad, you can go to View and then Frame Selected over here, okay? So we want this to be much smaller. And let's go to our top view, so 7 on the numpad. And I'm just going to move this kind of off to the side here. I'm pressing G to move it, just so that it's out of the way. We'll go to our front view, numpad 1. Now it's just easier to see and work with when I'm looking at the sprinkle from this angle. I'll scale it on the Z-axis, so S then Z or Z. Something like that. So again, I'm just kind of eyeballing what I want the sprinkle to look like. Okay, I think that's a good size. From here, we're going to add some divisions and start shaping the sprinkle, because right now it's just a very sharp-looking cylinder and not really a sprinkle shape. Before we do that, let's add a modifier. So click on your little blue wrench button that's here on the right side of your screen, bottom right side, modifiers. Click on Add Modifier and Subdivision Surface. That's it. We don't need to change anything else. The sprinkle should look kind of like a rice grain right now. Okay, so we're going to zoom in. We're just going to zoom in a little bit and go to Edit Mode. So Tab is a shortcut for Edit Mode. All right, and we're going to start adding in some more edge loops. So right now I have a row of vertices up here. I have another row of vertices down here. I'm going to add a row of edge loops to further define the sprinkle so that it does not look like a rice grain and so that it looks like a sprinkle. Okay, we're going to go to wireframe mode, so press Z. This little pie menu pops up and we're going to go to wireframe. Okay, if it's a little bit hard to see, you can just zoom in here. Whoops. Okay, I guess if you zoom in too much, the sprinkle might disappear, so you'll have to kind of zoom out just a little bit. Okay, from here I'm going to, oh, there we go. I'm going to press Command R. Command R. Make sure your mouse is on your geometry. Okay, if the mouse is not on the geometry, nothing's going to happen. So the mouse is on the geometry, and notice how you can see a yellow line that pops up. Once I see that, I'm going to click once, and then I can move my mouse and position where this extra loop of vertices will go. And I'm going to position this kind of here towards the top, and then you just have to click one more time to place it down. So we'll do that again. Command R, make sure your mouse is on the geometry, click once, move it a little bit towards the edge there, and click again. So we've added in one loop of vertices up here, another loop of vertices down here. We're going to add one more in the middle. So Command R, click, And we don't need to move this around because this is going straight in the middle. So you just position it in the middle and then click again. And we're going to scale this down just a little bit, just ever so slightly. So with that middle, these middle vertices selected, by the way, to select things, you just click and drag, making sure your select tool is activated, right? That's up here in the select box. Okay. Click and drag, everything in the box will be selected, and you'll know that it's selected because it's orange. I'm going to press S and then just bring it in ever so slightly, just to make it slightly imperfect. If I press Tab to leave edit mode, Z, go to solid, I've got a better looking sprinkle. And last thing I can do is right click, press shade smooth, and that's about it. Okay, in my outliner, which is up here in the top right, it says cylinder. So let's rename that. Double click, sprinkle, and then press enter. Okay, and we're going to make a few more sprinkles, maybe 3 sprinkles in total. So I'm going to duplicate this, make sure it's selected. Okay, just press Shift D to duplicate. It's going to get it stuck to your mouse. Bring it over to the side. And we're going to go back to wireframe mode. So Z, wireframe, back to edit mode, which is Tab. And I'll select these top 2 groups of vertices here and just kind of press G. G is the shortcut to move things around, so that's G for grab. Easy way of remembering it, G for grab. If I need to rotate it, R for rotate. So I'm just pressing R 1 time. If you press R 2 times like this, you're going to activate the 3D rotation, which is not what we want. Okay, so if ever you press something and you know you don't want to do that, you can either press Escape, or you can you can just undo what you've done. Okay, so I'm just selecting these rows of vertices here and just kind of making a kind of curved sprinkle shape. And again, you can see all of the keyboard shortcuts I'm using down in the bottom left. I'm just using G and R, G and R. Okay, selecting groups of vertices, G and then R. Okay, and then press Tab to exit edit mode. And now I have kind of a curved shape sprinkle. I can also make it slightly smaller, so you just press S for that. Make it a tad smaller, and then we'll do one last sprinkle here. Shift D. Okay, place it on beside that one. And let's go back to edit mode. And maybe for this, I'll make it kind of curved the other way. And I'll add one more loop of vertices. So Command R, I'll place it here, and then I'll click again, and then maybe make it kind of like a squiggly sprinkle. And it's kind of difficult to see how it looks, so I'm just gonna press Tab again, and I think that's fine. Okay, you can position it however way you'd like. Maybe just a slight adjustment here. Okay, so I've got my 3 sprinkles. Okay, just moving them closer to each other. One thing that's important is this little orange dot. That represents the center of your geometry. You want to make sure that's in the center of the sprinkle. Right now you can see it's not in the center, it's kind of towards the edge. How do we fix that? We can go to edit mode, so press Tab, then press A, just make sure everything's selected, or all of it is selected. So easy way to remember, A for all. You'll see the whole thing light up in orange, then just press G, and move that so that the sprinkle is now in the center of that dot. Okay, there are other ways of adjusting your origin. That's called the origin, that little orange dot. But we don't need to go into that right now. Okay, just make sure you've got your 3 sprinkles there, and that orange dot is more or less at the center of the sprinkle. Okay, I'm just going to make a slight adjustment here and make this slightly smaller. Okay, the next step is to group all these sprinkles. So if you look in your outliner again, we've got sprinkle 01, sprinkle 02. We're going to group all of these. So I'm going to hold Shift and select all of them, right? Or you can even you could even have them selected in the outliner. Just lost myself there. Okay, I can just kind of click and drag. Remember, anything touching this box will get selected. Once these are selected, I'm going to press M for move, and click on New Collection. And we're going to call this Sprinkles. Then press Enter, or you could press OK. And then you'll know you did it correctly. If you look in the outliner again, you see now we have something that says sprinkles, and then the 3 sprinkles that we've modeled are in there. That's about the most time-consuming part of adding sprinkles, is actually making the sprinkles. From here on out, it is pretty simple, but there are quite a lot of steps. So it's not difficult, it's just a lot of steps. So make sure you are following closely. I'm going to go back to solid mode. So Z, press solid. Just going to zoom out a little bit here. All right, and if you've already added in textures or colors, you can just go to your material preview. So Z, material preview, and then here we are. Okay, so we've got our donut, we've got our 3 sprinkles ready to go. I'm going to select the icing. Just going to, okay, select the icing there, and the icing should have a solidify modifier. That's just one thing to double check. All right, and I'm going to go to, actually before anything, if you haven't already done this, just make sure you've applied your solidify modifier. I'm just going to apply that over here. All right, we're going to go to the particles tab, which is down here. Underneath your modifiers, there's particles. Okay, with your icing selected, in this little side area, click on the plus sign, and a particle system will appear. Okay, you might see kind of a ball on your donut. Just ignore that. Okay, so in your particle systems, make sure by default you have emitter selected. So let's just change that to hair. Don't worry about what all this means. It's not important right now. So just make sure you have hair selected. Let's click on advanced, and we're going to scroll down. Make sure I see everything here. Okay. There's an option that says render down here in that list. Render. And render just means so right now what do our particles look like? Well, our particles look like hair, like long strands of hair, and that's not what we want. We want sprinkles. We don't want a hairy donut. That's gross. Okay, so render as what would we like to see? We would like to see our sprinkles. So instead of path, which is what we have selected, let's click on collection and instance collection. So now it's asking us what kind of collection do we want? Well, if you recall, we created a collection or a group, and we put our sprinkles in that group. So click on this little area down here, and if you did it correctly, you should see your collection called sprinkles. So I'm going to select that, and you should see now your sprinkles will start to appear on your donut. Okay, we have to change a few things here. So we'll scroll back up in this list. The number up here is how many sprinkles you have on your donut. I'm going to kind of leave it at around 1,500 for now. You can choose whatever you like. If you want more sprinkles, you can have a higher number there. If you want fewer sprinkles, a lower number there. Let's click on rotation. There's a little checkbox beside that, and there's a little arrow, so I'm going to click on that to expand that menu. Orientation axis. Again, don't worry about what all this means. It's just a few things we need to set up so that our sprinkles behave in the way that we want them to behave. So instead of velocity and hair, choose normal. Okay, and then it's looking better, but we want to randomize the sprinkles even more. So I'm going to click and drag here where it says randomize, and you can see the sprinkles start to kind of get a more random arrangement there. Phase, you can also play around with that slider. That'll further randomize your movement there, or your display of the sprinkles. And oh no, what happened? I clicked off and now everything's gone. If that happens, just click on your icing, or you can select it up here, and then you'll see your particle system come back. Okay. All right, so back in the sprinkles tab, or in the particles tab, we've applied rotation, a randomized rotation. Make sure this says normal over here. Let's go down to scale. So underneath render, where it says render as collection, underneath that says scale. I'm just going to click and drag. If your sprinkles are looking too small, we can use this to make them larger. Right? I wouldn't go crazy like that. Maybe something like this. And then scale randomness, we also want the sprinkles to be, not all of them should be the same size. So this will further add to the realism of the sprinkles. Don't go crazy, because then your sprinkles are kind of going to look like crumbs. I would go somewhere, you know, around 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, something like that. That's about it for the actual particle system. There is one problem though, and that's that the sprinkles are all over the icing, including the underside of the icing. So if I hide my donut, you're going to see the sprinkles are underneath, which is weird. We don't want that. So we want to basically specify where the sprinkles should go. I'm just going to zoom out here. Okay, and to do this, we need to go to an area called weight painting. Weight painting. So that's up here. Object mode. Okay, this is a different mode of Blender. So let's click on the top left object mode, change that to weight paint. Make sure your icing is selected when you're doing this. Okay, very important. We do not want to paint the wrong geometry. When you're weight painting in Blender, I'm just going to go to my top view by pressing numpad 7. Okay, it's quite similar to your sculpting. So you have your brush. I can increase or decrease my brush size using those left and right bracket keys. And if you try clicking on the icing, you should see kind of a rainbow pop up. So everything dark blue is a value of 0. Okay, so basically anything blue or anything dark blue, those are areas where your sprinkles are not going to appear. So I don't want my sprinkles to appear all around, you know, at the very edge of my icing, because again, that's not really ideal. It's not really realistic. So I'm just kind of painting. This is basically kind of looks like a heat map almost of where I want my sprinkles to go. So notice how I'm staying away from the absolute closest edge of the donut, right? I'm not going right to the very edge. So I want something similar to this. And then from here, value of red is a value of 100%. So I don't want 100% of sprinkles all around the donut. Again, it's just going to look almost too perfect. We want this to look more random. So I can decrease the strength up here. Okay, that's up here at the top of the screen, maybe to around 0.5 or something like that. And then just kind of paint over any areas. Okay, if you're not noticing a change, you can decrease the strength further. Oh, okay, so it's actually not the strength, it's actually the weight. So the weight value. There we go. Okay, so you want to change the weight, not the strength. Okay, so any green areas or yellow, those are values in between 0 and 100. Okay, so I want some variation basically. That's what we're trying to do here. Decrease the weight further or increase it depending on what you want. We're just trying to add a bit of variation here. Okay, and maybe I'll just have a little bit more sprinkles in this area. Okay, so your heat map or your texture, your weight paint should look more or less, you know, like this. We don't want it 100% red. We don't want it 100% dark blue. We want kind of a mixture of all the values here. Okay, once you're done with your weight paint, how do we actually tell Blender that we want our sprinkles to appear in this area that we've just painted? So let's go to object mode. Okay, make sure your icing's selected. Now the weight paint is going to be here, and that's in your data menu right here, this green triangle. And you'll notice under vertex groups, again, don't worry about what all this means. It is quite technical. You should see something that says group. Let's double click on this and call this sprinkle density and press enter. Okay, sprinkle density, just so that we're organized here. And we'll go back to our particles tab, and we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says viewport display. Nope, we're not going to click on that. Where is that? Oh, here it is. Okay, I had to zoom out a little bit. So it's all the way down at the bottom where it says vertex groups. Okay, and the first option that pops up, density. Click on that, and you should see your sprinkle density. That is your weight painted map that you just created. Click on that, and now you'll see that the sprinkles have rearranged themselves according to the weight paint that we just used. Okay, that's basically it. That's how you set up your sprinkles. And to color your sprinkles, we can quickly do that by clicking on one of the sprinkles. Go to your material tab. That's down here. That's your red checkered ball. Click on new. We can rename this and call it sprinkles. Okay, and we want each of these other sprinkles to have that same material. So I'm going to click on the other two sprinkles there one by one. Click on that little checkered ball here. Don't click on new, because we're not adding a new material. We're adding an existing material, and that's going to be in this drop-down menu. Sprinkles. Select your last sprinkle. Same thing. So we're just applying that material to all three sprinkles, and we want kind of a randomized color. So how do we randomize this? So right now, if I change the base color, you'll notice that everything just changes, right? Which may or may not be what you want, but we want kind of a randomized color here. So how do we do that? Let's go to shading. I'm just going to reset my area here. Shading, and I'm going to zoom in on one of those sprinkles. The period key on your numpad, right? That's the shortcut to zoom in. Okay, down here we have our nodes. So the first thing you want is Shift A. That's down here. Shift A. Click on search and click on, or type in object info. Okay, so I pressed Shift A, I clicked on search, and I typed in object info. You click on that and you're going to get a little node over here. We want to connect this random value, this random value over here, so this random dot, to the base color, just like that, by clicking and dragging. If you zoom out, you'll notice everything just turns kind of gray or white or black. If I look at my sprinkles, kind of looks like salt and pepper. Not very appetizing. How do we change this? So we're going to press Shift A down here in the node editor, click on search, type in ramp, R-A-M-P, and it's the first one, color ramp. And just kind of drop that in between. So make sure you're dropping this onto that line in the back, and it should automatically connect. So now, the last thing I want to change is change this from linear to constant. Okay. Again, don't worry about what that means. I'm going to click on the little black square here and click down here in this rectangular section. Just bring this up, and now I can actually specify what kind of colors I want. So let's go with let's do a cotton candy combination. So that's pink. There's another area here, another slider. You can just click on that white handle and bring it off to the side, and we can change the color of this. So let's make this light blue. Okay, and maybe we'll add one last color. So how do I add more colors? Just press this little plus sign here. Okay, and let's say I don't want it there. You can just click and drag and bring it over here. And let's make this kind of like a pastel yellow, kind of like a banana color. Okay, so now if I just zoom out, you're gonna see, there we go. We've got our sprinkles with those three different colors. Okay, so if you don't change this value from constant, so let's say by default it's set to linear, this is what's happening. It's kind of blending all the colors together, which again, it may or may not be what you want, but you are going to get some sprinkles that look kind of strange, which is, you know, some of the sprinkles just have kind of a mixture of all those colors. I don't really recommend doing that. So again, make sure you change this from linear to constant, and it'll only take those colors that you choose and it won't blend them. Okay, and that's how you set up your sprinkles. We've gone over the creation of the sprinkles, the creation of the sprinkle geometry, how to apply the particle system to your donut, and how to shade the sprinkles so that they look, they're colorful.